this Unit 4, we will be covering performance evaluation, SMART criteria, SMART criteria, KPI categories, and balanced scorecard, types of remuneration system. Let's start with the chapter. What is performance? Performance is actually the execution of an action or something accomplished. When we say execution of an action, then in the organization scenario, how we are going to measure that thing. The performance is actually evaluation systems serve a number of purposes. What are those purposes? One, they communicate what is important to the organization. With the performance, they communicate what is the purpose of the performance is to communicate what is important to the organization. Okay, the outline what the organizational expectations are. They provide feedback on performance levels. They allow for an assessment to be made as to whether objectives are being met. As the old cliche states, what gets measured gets done. What do you understand by this thing? Why I am telling you this thing now? Because because in this chapter, probably the KPIs, when we go into detail a little bit more later on in the later slides, then definitely you will understand why I'm talking about this performance. Definitely in this whole chapter, we will be measuring this performance. We will be evaluating the performance, evaluating the system to measure the performance. Now, so what I'm going to tell you here is the purposes of performance. How we are going to deal with that is, so they communicate what is important to the organization and the organizational objectives, expectations, feedback, performance levels, and assessment. Now let's move on to the next thing is performance evaluation system. What is performance evaluation system? Most performance evaluation system can be broken down into the following aspects. What are these aspects are? So definitely if someone, we say any person is performing, so it means its goals and objectives are working. So if anyone who set a goal for himself or herself, then he is also achieving that goals and objectives. Second thing, key performance indicators. So definitely how he is measuring that the goal or objectives has been met. It's the key performance indicators, which is telling him or her that yes, you are going on the right track. This is key performance indicator. And the targets. So the targets are definitely any objective or goal is just split into small targets. A performance measure, a target for future performance can be set. Now, taking action. So these smaller targets, when achieved, when somebody say smaller targets, yes, I have done this, I am going to take action on A, B, C. So it means after targets have been set, detailed plans can be developed and implemented in order to achieve the targets. So this is called taking action. And performance evaluation and feedback, what does that mean? By comparing actual performance, how we do that performance evaluation and feedback? What we do, we just compare actual performance with the target performance so that we can evaluate the performance whether we are up to the mark or not. So this is the kind of performance evaluation system. First of all, we make goals and objectives, and then we set the key performance indicators. Then we say so that we can measure those goals or objectives are according to our targets or not. So targets are the smaller parts of the goals and objectives, so that if we split our goals and objectives in a smaller parts, we can say them as a target. And then we are taking action on those targets. And those actions are measured on the basis of the budgeted and actual performance. That's called the evaluation and the feedback. Now, what is SMART criteria? This is kind of easy thing. What SMART is S, specific. Okay, what is specific? Our like goals and objectives, this should be clearly defined. Okay, it's specific, clearly defined, easily understood, doesn't contain multiple variables. It means it should be stick to one point. And then after that, measurable. What does the measurable means? Measurable in a timely and efficient manner. It can be measurable in both ways. And practical and cost effective to gather the information for goal setting and KPIs. Okay, measurable. Just keep in your mind your goals, objectives must be specific, like to the point, and measurable. Third is action oriented. Now, action oriented is inspire an action or behavior. It can inspire. Action can be undertaken to improve the KPI. Okay, the third thing is realistic. So we are when we are setting this SMART criteria in building our KPIs, then it should be realistic. The fourth component, fourth pillar of this SMART criteria is it should be realistic, practically possible for goal to be achieved, relevant to the organization. It must be relevant to the organization. And the last is time bound. Like it should have some kind of time constraints, time period clearly defined to allow for analysis of the results, takes into account the regularity of the reporting underpinning it, allows sufficient time between measurement to ensure enough data can be collected. So now come to the other thing. Now, what is KPI? What is KPI? KPI is key performance indicators. Like as I told you, performance. Now, what we are doing is key performance indicators. This will give us a little bit of idea that what is performance or how we are going to measure the performance. KPIs are measures that a business uses to track performance and measure performance. So now you know the performance. So that's why I told you earlier what performance is. And now KPIs are measures that a business uses to track performance and measure outcomes. A KPI qualifies, a KPI quantifies, it is kind of quantity, how successful an organization is in achieving its objective. Suppose a KPI is saying 70% of the sales, 70% sales are more higher as compared to the previous period in the same year. So good KPIs linked to the organization's strategic goals. Now, what the good KPIs characteristics are, we can say, is good KPI linked to the organization's strategic goals, its strategic goals, and the organization's operational goals. It should be linked to both these things or either of them. Now, KPIs can also be used to align staff to strategic objectives, and to attain operational goals. So now what we are discussing in this slide, actually, if you think about that thing, the background, the KPI can be used to, the first thing is to align staff to strategic objectives. So first of all, if we are measuring or if we're using the KPIs to measure the performance of any department, so definitely the staff of that department will be a little bit aligned to the strategic objectives because the KPIs will be aligned to the performance or to the goals or objective of the organization and attain operational goals. Then we come to the targets, the smaller part of that goal or objective. So attain operational goals, analyze performance over a period of time by identifying trends. So when we will be identifying a trend, this is an upward trend, then we can analyze the performance over a period of time. Then we can easily identify, or we can easily analyze the performance over some specific period of time. Now, fourth thing, allow management to analyze performance. It allows KPIs allow management to analyze performance and decide what actions to take in order to meet performance goals. Okay. So now, have you got that point? The point is actually KPIs can be used for all these four items. Now, the next slide that I'm going to tell you is KPIs are key. KPIs are key when specific to the organization, when specific to a scenario or set of circumstances, not generic. It shouldn't be like the KPIs. It should be specific for the organization, for like whatever the KPIs are related to. It should be related to that organization, not to anyone else. And it shouldn't be generic. Like in the past paper exam, we have discussed these things a lot of times. We should be a little bit specific in the KPI when we are asked to prepare KPIs on anything. Then definitely what we will be doing, we will just we will be answering the scenario, not just a kind of generic answer, but we will be giving a specific on that scenario, and not a duplicate measure of an aspect measured by another KPI. So now here I am telling you one thing is to what we say duplicate. If we are mirroring the performance of a sales department, then we can say sales department, then we can build a KPIs on sales, and we can build a KPIs on receivable. Actually, the receivable also covers a sales, but definitely for the cash sales, not for the cash sales, only for the credit sales. So we can say if we are making a KPIs on that thing, then definitely we can avoid doing the duplication, not to duplicate measure of an aspect measured by another KPI. Now I'm giving you example of KPIs. I will be giving you example of bad KPIs, few of the pitfalls that we can cover, and then I will be telling you ineffective KPIs, and then I can give you example of better KPIs example. So just give a little bit of idea on these things. So common pitfalls in developing KPIs. When you are developing KPIs, then it's about trends or variances. Okay, when if it's about trends, then what you have to discuss, and then if it's a percentage changes, like we can say the KPIs can be, we can prepare our KPIs in these three categories: one, trends, percentage, and then comparison to budgets or other targets. So how are we gonna build up these KPIs? So I'm giving you example of ineffective KPI example. Okay, ineffective KPI are, if it's trend, then increase in sales revenue per month. So what actually this thing is missing? This is missing the SMART criteria. In the SMART, what we have discussed, it should be specific, measurable, action oriented, realistic, time bound. Okay, now come to the percentage one. The percentage change in temporary staff costs per month. It doesn't tell us even about any organization. It doesn't even tell us about any amount of cost. And then variance from actual versus budgeted profit per month. So you can understand these are the ineffective KPIs, but how you going to analyze this is ineffective? I'm giving you the better KPIs example. What are these? The dollar amount of sales revenue per month. Now this will give a clear picture of like how much, like even in the ineffective KPI example that as we have told, because this is telling us about trends and variance. Okay, this is a dollar amount of sales revenue per month. Okay, now come to the percentage. Dollar cost of temporary staff per month. Okay, So this is the kind of comparison between percentage, ineffective, and better KPI example. And then comparison to budget, in that dollar amount of profit per month. That's a perfect example. Now, KPI categories. Now this is very important, very important. I'm expecting probably from this question or the other. We are expecting a question in this term from this. So KPI categories. One, financial versus non-financial. Second, lag versus lead. Short-term versus long-term. Operational versus strategic. So we will be discussing all these KPI categories in detail after in the upcoming slides. Number one, financial versus non-financial performance. So even you can understand from the financial or non-financial. So first we will be discussing financial performance. The financial performance is measurement dollar amount. It measures the performance in dollar amounts. And non-financial performance, it measures the commonly occurring transactions or activity. Example, like the number of activities performed in 1 minute. So it is, we can say, the upper one is a quantitative and this one is a qualitative. Now, what is the best combination for that? We will be using both of them. Okay. Need both in a set of KPIs in order to provide more complete picture of the performance. If we will be analyzing the KPIs, if we will be building up in the financial or non-financial performance, if in that scenario, then we will be making a combination of KPI in that scenario, so that we can get a really good complete picture of that. Now the second was short-term versus long-term performance. Short-term, as we know, short-term is usually straightforward to identify and develop focus, can lead to compromised long-term goals. Like it doesn't include the long-term goals, definitely it's short-term. And the long-term tend to be non-financial, qualitative, impact on long-term profitability. But definitely what we will be using is need both in a set of KPIs. An organization's success is generally made by assessing its strategy and delivery of the strategy over both the short and long term. Okay, have you got this thing? So it is very important to consider a mix of both types of measures so that we can achieve the optimal level of our organization's performance. Number 3 is lag versus lead. Lead is like leading, lag is just behind. Now, I'm just telling you lag, reflect past events and performance. Lag is because it's lagging. It's to reflect the past events and performance. When it say lead means measures that provide current indication of future performance. It is leading. Now, what we will be doing in this thing is both. Need both in a set of KPIs. Combination will reward achievement to date and also reward contribution to future success. Contribution to future success. Now, if we talk strategic versus operational measures. Strategic is a kind of measures where the organization is heading in direction set by senior management. If a senior, like strategic level is from the top level. The top level, whatever the objective has been set by the strategic team, and those things can be measured. So then if we will be measuring only that thing, definitely that will not be giving us a good result on that. So it means measures whether organization is heading in the direction set by senior management. And operational means a tiny level of that. Measures whether the operations of a business are functioning in an efficient and effective manner. The strategic is for senior management, but operational is on the little bit lower level of the strategic. But the best optimal solution is both. Need both in a set of KPIs. An organization's success is generally measured by achievement of its strategy and day-to-day operations supporting achievement of the strategy. Okay, you got my point, what I'm telling you to. What is balanced scorecard? This is a very important topic of this chapter. Balanced scorecard does have four perspectives. One is financial perspective, second is customer perspective, third internal process perspective, fourth learning and growth perspective. Why we say these perspectives are cause and effect? Because these are interlinked to each other. And this is a framework for developing financial and non-financial measures to monitor the achievement of an organization's strategic objectives. Now let's go into a little bit detail. Number one is financial perspective. Financial perspective is so what will deliver profitability? What will deliver profitability and a return on investment to shareholders? Okay, the financial perspective definitely talks about a little bit of the shareholders. It doesn't talk about any other component, but because shareholders are concerned for their value, for their wealth. Now, these are outcomes which will show that the strategy is being delivered for shareholders. Whatever the outcome, whatever the profitability will be, definitely the shareholder will be saying. What shareholder will be saying? This time they have earned $10 million profit, so it means the profitability, suppose it's 1% of the investment. So the profitability, what they do, the outcome which will show that the strategy is being delivered for shareholders. If shareholders were expecting 2%, then it means the strategy has not been delivered according to the shareholders. So what we do, does the KPI measures the financial objectives of the organization? We have to ask this question if the financial perspective has been met. So what we'll be asking, does the KPI measure the financial objectives of the organization? Okay. For example, sales revenue per month. Has this thing been met or not? Distribution cost per month. ROI per annum. So what this thing is talking about? Profitability or return on investment, ROI, to shareholders. Now move on to the second one is customer perspective. In this customer perspective, we will be talking about just the customer. So how can we tell if our customers are happy with us and we are creating value for them? Either we are providing just a product or we are providing a quality product. Okay, how can we tell if our customers are happy? Now move on to this thing. These are outcomes which will help show that the strategy is going to be delivered. Now what question we will be asking? Does the KPI tell me whether the customer is happy with the organization and its performance? If the KPI is giving the answer on that question, then it means the customer perspective has been met in the balanced scorecard. What are the example of that? Develop measure focused on, we will be developing measures focused on customer satisfaction, customer retention, customer acquisition, customer profitability, market share. Okay, and the example are percentage of market share per quarter, number of repeat customers per month. Okay. Now number 3 is very important. It is about the internal process of perspective, internal process of the organization and its perspective. What does that mean? What do we need to do well in order to succeed? What our organization need to do well in order to succeed? This question that you have to ask. These are the processes as we have told them, these are the processes that will help to deliver the strategy. If the process is up to the mark, then it means the strategy will be delivered. Is the KPI linked to something that is important to the customer? Is the KPI linked to something that is important to the customer? One, is the KPI linked to key aspects of organizational efficiency or waste? Okay. Now, develop measures found on operational process. If the operational process is going well, customer management process. These are different kind of processes if these have been followed or not. Innovation processes. Now, examples are machine utilization rate per month. According to the process, this utilization, if we will be following all the process that has been mentioned in the organization in the policies, then it means it will be meeting. It must have met all the criteria that we have already discussed. Number of jobs completed on time per month. And now come to the last one, learning and growth objective. This is regarding the employees. Where do we need to develop a succeed? Okay, where do we need to develop to succeed? Definitely, if we want to succeed, if our organization want to succeed or want to build up a kind of um, uh, goodwill in the atmosphere in the environment, then these are inputs which are essential to the delivery of the strategy. These are inputs which are essential to the delivery of the strategy. Now, what are the few questions? Is the KPI linked to indicators of current future skills of staff? Is the KPI linked to creating future growth opportunities for the organization? The development is focused on competencies, technology, organization culture, future growth. For example, I'm giving you the example of that is training hours per quarter, new products developed per quarter, employee turnover per quarter. Now let's move on to the next slide. With the next slide is performance measurement and motivation. This section is about why I'm telling you the cause and effect relationship of all these perspectives. So the one I told you, the financial perspective, the other one I told you customer, internal process, and the last one was learning and growth. Now I'm going to tell you how these are interlinked. Financial. Can you see the money in the KPI? Does the KPI measure the financial objective of the organization? So how these are linked to this one? So suppose we talk about the internal process. Internal process is does the KPI measure process that are critical to the success of an organization? These could be operational, customer management, or innovation process. So if this internal process is good, then more efficient, less wastage. It means the financial benefit will be more. Okay, and how it will be connected with the customer? This will be connected with the customer with improve key services area around what is important to the customer. Then it will be focused on that. Okay, with the internal process system. Now if we talk about the learning and growth, because it will be regarding the employees, so organization have the resources needed to deliver the strategy. These can include employee capabilities, information system capabilities, or strategy awareness and motivation. So if this we say this is working, then increase skill level to allow improved service delivery. So if the employee's skill level is good and the service delivery has been improved, so it means the internal process will be good. So that's why it's interlinked. And now, if the learning and growth is working good, then it means the new product or services ideas bring the customer back. The new product or services, even if we are retaining those services that we are already providing, then it means we are retaining the customers. That's why it's interlinked. And now, if customers' perspective is met, then happy customers lead to higher sales. If the higher sales met, the financial objective is interlinked. So now, why I have told you this thing? Because of the only one reason I'm going to tell you is how these perspective, these four balanced scorecard perspective are interlinked to each other. Okay, now let's move on to the types of remuneration system. And the number one is merit pay. Merit pay is annual pay increases are linked to performance appraisal ratings. If the rating is up to the mark, which whatever the management has suggested, so it means that remunerations will be given. The merit pay will be given. Individual incentive pay. If the individual is working with a very good performance, so it means payments are not rolled into base pay. Okay. Performance is usually measured as physical output rather than on subjective ratings. Now come to the third one is profit sharing. Even the word says the profit sharing is profit will be shared. Payments based on organizational performance and are not part of base salary. Encourages employee to think more like owners because it's a profit sharing. So employees will be thinking, yes, we are, if we will be doing everything good, so it means we will be getting more profits. Otherwise, we will be getting less profits or maybe loss. Ownership. Offering employees shares or share options provides a longer term focus so that they should not leave the organization because they are now the owners of the organization, or they might have shares or share options. Now, the fifth is group incentive and team awards. Sharing productivity gains with employees. A group is my air on group performance, which is considered more controllable. Skill based. Reward employees when new skills and capabilities are required. It's a sum up of